Thank you, Kevin. Interesting as ever. So, in this next segment, this was really for a bit of fun, and I'm observing the time. So, this, rather than covering Buddha's birthday as such, is going to be about sacred sites and shrines that I've discovered in just one place, Bangkok, Thailand. So I'm going to look at some of the traditions and stories behind them. So a bit different, but it's a subject that is directly related to Buddhism. And the reason I wanted to do this is because I can share some of what has fascinated me from personal experience. And I love learning about tradition and history of cultures. So discovering the stories and the myths behind the sites has always been really fun and interesting to me. So anyone that's a member of my Dharma events and discussion group, or our group, you may recall I did a blog about Red Fanta. Don't worry if you haven't, because I hopefully have time to just cover a bit more on that, because that's where my fascination began, around discovering what the offerings were about at the shrines and the temples, and what spirit houses were about. So really we're talking about the word that's on the screen, animism. Got that pronounced correctly. So the explanation is there. So basically the attribution of a living soul to plants, inanimate objects, and natural phenomena. So basically the higher status of a sacred site, the more uniform in nature and similar to each other they seem to be. However, in Bangkok, the shrines can be quite outlandish and have very wild offerings and stories behind them. There are a vast number of Thai spirits, and they all have their own place, their own origin, their own folk story. It's important not to confuse Buddhism with animism, however. Okay, so firstly, the snake shrine. So this one is in one of the busiest areas of the city. It's actually on Rama Road, in what you would call an ultra modern area of a mega city. So the devotees at this shrine offer plates of eggs draped with rubber snakes. So the story goes, and there's a couple of versions of this story, but this is about the clearest one. A construction worker, when they were digging a pit for a new skyscraper, apparently came across, so it's quite a modern story, came across a cobra lair, and he killed the cobra and smashed her eggs. So the next night she appeared in his dreams, the cobra, and he was dreaming that the snake was demanding a shrine in her honor and for her unhatched offspring. So the boss, the foreman of the site where they're building the skyscraper, who wasn't at all superstitious, obviously shrugged this off when the worker told him about it, and he dismissed the warning. And once the diggers went to work, they apparently unearthed masses of dead snakes. So soon accidents started happening in the area, and road workers began disappearing and dying, and the work kept getting disrupted. And the snake continued visiting the men that were working on the site in their dreams and threatening them. That was until a medium advised them to make the shrine, and apparently all the mayhem stopped. So now people pray for luck at the altar of the snake statues and woman effigies, and they're said to mark the spot of the destroyed lair. So there'll be giant wood cobras decked in strings of pearls, you can see there in the picture, flanked by full-size mannequins of parents and children. Pretty creepy looking, really, dressed with snake crowns. I think the actual mannequins look a bit creepier than the serpents. So that's the snake shrine. Then we have, there's another picture of the snake shrine there, and the offerings of the cobras. Then we have Nang Nak. So this is actually our celebrity ghost. So would-be mothers will make a pilgrimage to the Wat, or temple, for the Canal Side shrine of what would be considered the superstar ghost of Thailand, Nang Nak. So She's also often named after the village that she haunted 2 centuries ago, which is now more of an inner suburb of the city. Now, in the world of Thai ghosts, the scariest ghosts, the most feared, are the wraiths of pregnant women and the stillborn. So you see the story with the snake; it was pregnant. So this is supposed to be this prototype of love. It's supposed to be so jealous that it's lethal. Is the idea behind that. So Nak and her baby were said to have died in childbirth while her husband was away at war, and when he returned, the ghosts of Nak and the child filled him that they were still alive. And once he noticed her powers, he fled, and she then terrorized the village until she was exorcised by a Ghostbuster-style monk, Somdet To. Now, Nak Shrine is usually busiest ahead of lottery draws and annual military drafts, because military service is still a thing. Devotees will slip letters of their wishes between the holy coloured scarves, the grid-free, hand-blackened Takian trees, a very symbolic tree. They offer dresses, cosmetics, guns and toys to effigies of the husband, and the 2 plastic dolls of the baby. So you might wonder why there's 2 plastic dolls of the baby. It's because they didn't replace the old baby that had been worn out by devotees touching it, so they just added a new one, and that's why there's 2, which I find quite funny. And you can see here Nang Nok, she's not obscure at all. She's in the Hall of Fame of Thai belief alongside powerful gods and deities. She's relatable as motherly protection, and she shares a similar pronunciation in Thai to the Naga serpent, which is also one of the main deities of the entire region, basically. So there are magazines with her name, countless movies, TV shows telling her tale, and the actual highest grossing movie ever in Thailand is Pimak Phrakanonong. And you can see it there, the cover. And that's a spoof from the husband's perspective. It's like a spoof comedy film. Somdet To, who actually exorcised her, the monk, is respected and revered in his own right as a master in folk Buddhism, and his portrait is on a lot of amulets and statues. The chant that he used to quell Nak has become a meme. It's become available in print, encased in holy water, downloadable as a ringtone, which is kind of funny because it's actually illegal to take any Buddhist statue, ornaments or amulets outside of Thailand, and it's illegal to purchase them with money, because money should never be exchanged for a sacred item. So I don't know how the download works unless it's a free download ringtone. Anyway, going on to amulets. So sixth sense that imparts power over material and spiritual realms has always excited mankind. So the culture that I experienced traveling through Thailand was that ghosts are very much part of everyday life. That animism and the belief that spirits are always watching is there, and they form part of the modern culture. Now, obviously, rationalists will condemn sixth sense as hallucination, but animists will actually act on these premises. So they do have real world consequences. So it won't matter that a driver will take his hand off the wheel to why the shrine as they go around the busy corner. So, and possibly why there's many accidents as well in Thailand. But even though Buddhism's the moral benchmark, the Thais do have many spiritual solutions, and they're often based on things that they need and relationships. So believers seek confidence through a lucky charm or an amulet, a sympathetic ear from a medium, or even through spells. So this animism is much less of religion and just more of a way of life. It's more as common as feeding the cat and making a cup of tea. So to engage with things that you can't see, you have to amplify your other senses. So amulet or a lucky charm is made to be felt, whether that's sculptural or embossed or tattooed. And you can see here the white sisal strings. So they're on the wrist to help bring together the 32 angels known as Quan. So usually these are tied by a monk or spiritual doctor, sai sin, and they show how Buddhism and animism blend together. So how superstition can be an element within culture and faith. So you'll remember before that the colour is significant in Buddhism. So white represents purity. The circle is significant because when a circle or a thread forms, that's a protective power that's said to be stronger because it's continuous. So if this is tied around your wrists, you should keep it on for at least 3 days. The number 3 is very important in Buddhism. It represents the triple gems, so the 3 jewels of Buddhism, which are the Buddha, the Dharma, which are the teachings, and the Sangha, which is their monkhood. So when Thais enter a temple, they'll often kneel in front of the main Buddha image and bow 3 times while putting the palms on the floor before bringing their hands together to perform the way. So you don't have to be Buddhist to accept sai sin. You can think of it as a good luck charm. If somebody tied that cotton bracelet around your wrist, unlikely in England, but definitely in Southeast Asia this can happen. You should never refuse it if offered, because that would be very disrespectful to the person offering it. If somebody thinks enough of you to want to tie that around your wrists, then that is an act of hospitality, that they care, and you should accept that with thanks and grace. So in fact, it is very common to have that. The first time I was in Thailand, before I even knew anything about Buddhism, I had no idea what it meant. This was tied around me by a friend, and they just told me it's just for good luck. Now, obviously, I know a lot more about that. And the tradition says that if you take that off, you should gently untie it when removing it rather than cutting it. So I'm aware that we're going to run out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover the end of the animism part, and I might do the mindfulness session as a whole new session separate to this. Okay, so let's go to possibly my favorite bit, Red Fanta. I do go on about this a lot. If you've seen my blogs, I always wanted to know what these were, so I've now have quite a few theories on this. So you will find them in spirit houses everywhere in Bangkok, and basically they've been around for the last sort of decade or so. So spirit houses, just to briefly tell you what they are, they range in sizes, and they're intended to provide a shelter for spirits that could cause problems for the area if they're not appeased. So a common offering is food or drinks, and the idea is that friendly spirits will congregate, enjoy the free food and drink, and they'll be that busy, that it will help to keep the more malign spirits at bay. So that brings us to the Red Fanta, which is actually Nam Dang, which means simply red water. So the first explanation I found was that Thai spirits are just like Thai humans. They like to snack, and they basically like sweet things, and that Red Fanta brings 10 wishes, which is why it's so popular. So that would make sense. In Buddhism, red liquid is seen often as a polite substitution for blood sacrifice, was another suggestion, but that's highly, highly debated, this one. Interestingly, Thailand is actually Fanta's 4th largest market in the world, ahead of the USA. They sell more Fanta in Thailand than USA and China, so spirituality driving the sales. Now, something else I've discovered is that in tradition, Thai people would sweeten water with a pink-hued substance, which was made of palm sugar and herbs. So this could also be a modern-day replacement of that. And also it's said that the ghost that enjoys Red Fanta the most is a boy named Kuman Fong, which is a whole other story. So there's a few theories. I'm still not 100% on it. Apparently, and I need to update my blog on that as well since finding out more. Apparently, if a person drinks Red Fanta in a social situation in Thailand, you probably get teased by people saying, "Who do you think you are, a ghost baby?" or something like this. Okay, and then my final part of animism. So I've only skimmed the subject really on senses, shrines, spirituality. I've only covered one small region, in fact one city, in terms of the wider world, so you can imagine the variances of these things. So throughout the Theravada countries, there's a wide range of deities and spirits, and they're incorporated into the Buddhist world as inhabitants of particular realms within the cosmos, or as guardians of various images, statues, homes, temples. Now, animism can be a force for good because it binds together communities with local beliefs. Another thing that animism helps with is protecting the environment, particularly urban ecology. So, for example, in Bangkok, trees are protected very often by residents tying sacred scarves around the trees, and that staves off anybody wanting to chop them down. Monks often do this as well to stop deforestation. So yeah, very important for the environment. The city's even got official animism. So what you're looking at here, this is the city pillar shrine, and it's one of the most ancient, sacred, magnificent shrines in the country. So it's believed that people would achieve prosperity and fulfillment in work, career, avoid misfortune, and improve your luck and your power if you take a bow and pay respects at this sacred place. You can see there's statues of 5 spirits which are guarding the city pillar, and one of these guardian spirits is in charge of bureaucracy and public administration, so it's like a civil service spirit. So anyone that's got an issue with bureaucracy might find it worthwhile to make a little merit with that one, and they do. Now, on the pillar's anniversary, the government officials will present offerings of folded banana leaf, which the public will then pull apart to take parts of the leaf as lucky amulets and charms for their home altars and spirit houses. So, as you can see, whether or not the spirit's a formal or informal one, or bureaucratic spirit, you can never make too many offerings. So what I'm going to do, because I see we've got 2 minutes left, I'm going to do the mindfulness another day. I'm going to do a quick plug. You can see that there. So that is my group if you want to join and debate and speak more. I'm very happy as well from this session. I know I haven't read the chat. If anyone wants to ask me anything, email. I'll pick that up. But as I am Buddhist, if you do email me, don't send any attachments.
Well done, Steve.